Goff's been sacked 123. One more sack, he ties Scott Mitchell for 8th. 2 sacks, he moves into 8th all by himself. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I'm Ernie Jennings, your host, and in this podcast, we'll be looking at the Lions at the Bengals coming up this Sunday. Before we get started, let me just say this is actually my 100th episode. Unbelievable. Probably be the last one I do like this. I think I'm going to change my format, not so much focus on who's going to win the game, so much as the different stats. Like I said, the top 10 type of players, whether they're on a team level, NFL level, and also where they stand during the season. I'll be able to look at the seasonal rankings of everybody and see which of the players on these two teams are in, say, the top 10 in rushing, passing, receiving, whatever it might be. So I think I'll do it that way. There's plenty of podcasts that cover who's going to win a game, who's going to be the best fantasy players. And I'll still mention that stuff in one way or the other, especially on Wednesdays. I will definitely talk about the standings and who's ranking highest as far as fantasy players go. But during these pregame things, I'm just going to stick to the top 10s. But this one will be the last one where I do kind of get into who's going to win the game. So with that little introduction, we're off to see how the game between the Detroit Lions and the Cincinnati Bengals goes. This is a 4:00 game in Cincinnati at Paycor Stadium. And let's look at the Cincinnati Bengals, the home team. They are 2-2. Amazingly, they're at 2-2 considering how bad they looked last week. But let's take a look and see the top 10 players to watch in this game. Starting with Chase. Though it's been kind of went downhill for him now that Joe Burrow's gone, he's still in the top 10 all time for the Cincinnati Bengals. And in this instance, we're talking about the yards, most yards receiving. Right now, he is actually 10th. He's behind TJ Houshmandzadeh, who he's been trying to catch, Houshmandzadeh. Houshmandzadeh has 5,782 yards. Jamar Chase has 5,689. So he needs 93 yards to catch Houshmandzadeh. Jamar Chase does. So we'll see. If he gets 94 yards, he moves into 9th all by himself. So he's close. We'll see. He needs a good game. And obviously, if they're going to beat the Lions this week, they're going to definitely need a good game out of Jamar Chase. All right, let's look at another top 10 player to watch in this game, and that's actually T. Higgins, who's having even a worse time now that Joe Burrows is gone. Right now, he is also in 10th place with 35 touchdowns. We're talking touchdowns right here. Jamar Chase is already way up there with 47, but he's nowhere near the 4th place guy. So we're looking at T. Higgins here. He only needs one touchdown receiving to catch Darnay Scott and tie him for 9th place. So we'll see if he can do it. He could also actually move up to 8th, tie for 8th if he can catch the both of them. They both have 36 touchdowns. So we'll see. Darnay Scott played from 94 to 2001, and Chris Collingsworth, probably know him if you're younger, especially more as a TV announcer, but he played from 81 to 88. They both have 36 touchdowns. Higgins has 35. So we'll see what happens in this game. All right. On defense for Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson, right now is tied for 4th all-time in tackles for loss for the Cincinnati Bengals. He just needs one more to move into 4th all by himself over Justin Smith, who played from 2001 to 2007, and Sam Hubbard, who was with the team just last year. They all have 55 tackles for loss, so the next one for Hendrickson will move him ahead of both of those guys. And then next up for him will be Michael Johnson, who played from 09 to 18. He's got 60 tackles for loss. That's a look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now let's take a look at the Detroit Lions, who are 3-1 right now. Start with a coach. Dan Campbell has 42 wins. He needs one more to tie Joe Schmidt, who was the coach from 1967 to 1972, quite a while back. He has 43. Dan Campbell has 42. So if he wins this game, he's tied for fifth, because not only does Joe Schmidt have 43 wins, but so does Monty Clark, who was the coach from 1978 to 1984. He's also got 43 wins. So he's trying to move into a tie with both of them for fifth place all-time coach wins for the Detroit Lions. And honestly, a few seasons, if he continues to be the coach, Wayne Fontes is the leader all time with 66. So, a couple of seasons with 10, and depending on what he does this season, he could be there in a couple seasons, number one coach as far as wins go. All right, let's look at Jared Goff when we're talking, in this instance, about most sacks for a Detroit Lion quarterback. And right now he's in 9th. I'm sure he'd love to stay there in 9th. But in 8th place is Scott Mitchell, who was the quarterback from 1994 to 98. Was sacked 124 times. Jared Goff's been sacked 123. One more sack, he ties Scott Mitchell for 8th. 2 sacks, he moves into 8th all by himself. And then Rodney Peete, who played from 89 to 93, has 127. He'll be next up for Jared Goff. I don't think he has to worry about catching Matthew Stafford, not at least anytime soon. Stafford for the Lions was sacked 385 times. All right, let's look at the running back. And both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are in the top 6 in rushing touchdowns for the Detroit Lions, but Jahmyr Gibbs isn't close enough to catch the number 3 guy. Jahmyr Gibbs is 4th. David Montgomery currently is tied for 5th with 28. Jahmyr Gibbs is in 4th with 30. So depending on what happens, for example, if Jahmyr Gibbs gets 0 touchdowns and David Montgomery gets 2, he will tie Jahmyr Gibbs for 4th. But if he just gets 1, he'll move into 5th place by himself. So we'll be watching that. Another player to watch, top 10 player to watch in this game, is Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is also in 6th place in receiving yards. Currently, he has 5,158. Gail Gogdill, who played from 1960 to 68, has 5,221 yards. So he doesn't need too many. He needs a good game. 63 yards will put him ahead of Gail Cogdill. So we'll see what happens. 64 would actually put him ahead. 63 with time. So that's not too many to ask for in this game from him. He should be able to do that this game and move into 5th all time. Actually, if he even was to get a little bit better game than that and have 87 yards, he'd actually pass Brett Perriman, who played in the 90s, who's in 4th place. So he has the opportunity to pass 2 players in this game. So we'll be watching that. St. Brown, see if he can move up to even 4th place all-time Detroit Lions yardage. One more, Aiden Hutchinson. He's in 9th place right now in tackles for loss with 34. He's tied with Stephen Tulloch. So one more tackle for loss, and he moves into 9th all by himself. He'd have to have a really good game, have 3 tackles for loss to catch Cliff Avril, who played from 08 to 2012. He's got 37 tackles for loss. Aiden Hutchinson's in 9th with 34. So we'll see that. So in this game, you've got quite a few people you can watch to see if they can move farther up the top 10. Aiden Hutchinson, Ray St. Brown, David Montgomery, Jared Goff. Those are all for Detroit. And then Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. So there's quite a few players in this game to watch See how they do. All right, let's take a look at the game itself. In this game right now, there's no real key injuries to any of the key players. Cincinnati Bengals lead this series 10-3 right now. All right, let's take a look. Detroit Lions are leading the NFL in scoring with 34 points. On the opposite end, Bengals, not the worst, but they are the 30th ranked team with only 15 points a game. So the Lions are more than doubling them in score. Makes it difficult. Looking at the overall numbers in passing efficiency, the Lions are number 1 in the NFL. And unfortunately for the Bengals, they're the 23rd ranked defense against the pass. They're even worse against the rush. Lions offense is 11th in rushing efficiency. The Bengals are ranked 26th in defending the rush. Not good at all for the Bengals. And let's look and see if they improve anything if they're on the offense. And the answer is no to that. Bengals on offense, passing efficiency ranked 30th. Now, this is the weakest point of the Lions. This is going to be the best opportunity for them. The Lions are ranked 16th, middle of the pack, as far as defense against the pass. That's probably going to be their best bet because against the rush, the Bengals are ranked 32nd in offense rushing efficiency. The Lions are the third best team defending against the rush. So it doesn't look too good for the Bengals, whether they're on offense or defense. They're going to be in a very difficult game here. And with Jake Browning being the quarterback, he's got to figure out a way to get the ball down the field a little bit farther to Chase and Higgins. Otherwise, this game's just going to be a game like last week where they lost to the Broncos 28-3, couldn't muster up a touchdown at all. Chase, so far in the last 2 games, has a total of 73 yards. That's not going to cut it to beat the Detroit Lions. They're just too good. Somehow, when football's a funny game, and so somehow the Bengals were able to beat the Jaguars 3 weeks ago, but then since then, they scored 10 points against the Vikings and only 3 against the Broncos. So in this game, who's going to win? Well, I'm going to say the Detroit Lions, which kind of goes with the odds makers are giving Detroit Lions a 10.5 point favor here. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to beat the Cincinnati Bengals in this game. All right. I appreciate you listening to this podcast. You can find it on YouTube at Just the Stats NFL. Also on your podcast sites, Just the Stats NFL. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, any of your podcast apps. And also you can contact me at juststatsnfl@gmail.com. Appreciate you listening. Please subscribe. And I'm off to my next podcast. Thank you.